Texas in the 1970s wasn't just a state. It was an empire built on black gold. Oil prices soared from $3 to over $35 a barrel. Land worth $10,000 in 1970 sold for $2 million by 1980. Ranchers became millionaires overnight, and banks, they weren't lending money, they were printing fortunes. But by 1986, it all came crashing down. Over 160 banks failed across Texas. More than $40 billion in assets vanished, the equivalent of over $120 billion today. Houston lost 200,000 jobs. Families lost homes, life savings, businesses built over generations. This wasn't just a financial collapse. It was a story of hubris, risk, and blind faith in American abundance. A warning about what happens when greed outpaces wisdom. So how did Texas go from energy capital of the world to economic war zone? Who were the real players, the heroes, the villains, the survivors? And how did ordinary Americans rise from the ashes? Get ready. This is the true story of oil, power, and the resilience of the American spirit. A story not of failure, but of survival. Let's go. At the heart of the boom was Texas banking giant InterFirst Corporation, the largest bank in the Southwest. Under CEO Harlan Crow, it expanded aggressively, lending over $3 billion to oil and real estate ventures, more than any other Texas bank. But InterFirst wasn't alone. Banks like First Republic Bank in Dallas, led by Benton Coconower, were handing out loans like party favors. One infamous lender at Empire Bank said, "If you can fog a mirror, you're creditworthy." And they meant it. The FDIC later found that over 60% of loans had little or no collateral. But no one cared. Oil was king. By 1980, Texas banks held over $100 billion in assets, a 300% increase in a single decade. Dallas and Houston became playgrounds for the newly rich. Maseratis, private jets, million-dollar ranches. But behind the glamour, the foundation was cracking. The system wasn't built to last. It was built to explode. And when the oil price collapsed, the whole house of cards came down. Not just on bankers, but on teachers, mechanics, and families who trusted the system. In 1982, the first domino fell, Penn Square Bank in Oklahoma City. Led by Bill Patterson, it specialized in high-risk oil loans. It had lent $500 million to wildcatters, many with no drilling experience, no reserves, no plan. When oil prices dropped, those wells went dry, and so did the loans. Penn Square collapsed, taking $2 billion in losses with it. A massive blow to giants like Chase Manhattan and Continental Illinois, who had bought its risky loan portfolios. By 1984, the crisis hit Texas directly. First Republic Bank, once the pride of Dallas, was drowning in $1.2 billion in bad debt. Its stock dropped from $60 a share to under $2. CEO Benton Coconower resigned in disgrace. InterFirst followed. By 1988, it had lost $1.3 billion, the largest bank failure in Texas history at the time. Thousands of depositors panicked. Lines formed at branches. Some never got their money back. Houston's skyline, once a symbol of power, became a graveyard of unfinished towers. Office vacancy rates hit 30%. And the human cost? Over 300,000 jobs lost across the state. In 1987, the crisis became national. The FDIC, led by Chairman L. William Seidman, was running out of money. Over 150 banks had failed. The Deposit Insurance Fund was nearly empty. Congress acted the Competitive Equality Banking Act of 1987, authorized $10.8 billion in emergency funding. taxpayer money used to absorb losses and sell off toxic assets. The FDIC seized failed banks, fired executives, and launched what became known as Lemonade, the largest asset liquidation in U.S. banking history. They sold $40 billion in bad loans, real estate, and oil rigs to investors across the country. But not everyone was saved. The FDIC only protected deposits up to $100,000. A small business owner with $150,000 in savings lost $50,000 overnight. A family's college fund gone. Yet most top bankers faced no criminal charges, no jail time, no real accountability, just golden parachutes and quiet exits. The message was clear: some were too big to fail and too powerful to punish. By the early 1990s, the storm had passed, but the scars remained. Texas didn't recover because of bailouts. It recovered because of people. Engineers in Houston shifted from oil to medicine. The Texas Medical Center grew into the largest medical complex in the world. Universities invested in tech. Dallas became a hub for telecommunications and finance. New banks emerged, smaller, smarter, stricter. Regulators like the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency tightened lending rules nationwide. No more fog-a-mirror policies, no more blind bets. By 1995, unemployment dropped from 8.5% to 5.1%. New jobs replaced lost ones, not in oil, but in innovation. Texas didn't just survive, it evolved. And the $40 billion in lost wealth, it wasn't recovered, but it was learned from. Because in America, failure isn't the end. It's the fuel for the next comeback. This wasn't just a Texas story. It was an American story, one of excess, failure, and ultimate redemption. The oil boom didn't fail because America was weak. It failed because we forgot our values: prudence, accountability, hard work. But when the dust settled, it wasn't the government that saved Texas. It was the people. The teacher who kept teaching despite unpaid months. The mechanic who rebuilt his shop from nothing. The single mother who saved $20 a week until she bought a new home. That's the real America. Not the one riding the boom, but the one surviving the bust. We've faced crashes before. We'll face them again. But as long as there are Americans who rise after they fall, who build instead of blame, who work instead of wait, this country will never stay down. So ask yourself, what's your oil boom? And when it ends, because it will you break or will you rebuild? Like this video, hit like, and comment, what's the next boom waiting to burst? I read every single one. Subscribe and hit the bell, because next week, we're diving into a crisis even bigger than Texas. Until then, stay smart, stay strong, and remember, the American spirit isn't measured in wealth, but in courage, resilience, and the will to rise again.